Chapter 1: The Rise of Auschwitz. In the early 1940s, Adolf Hitler's Nazi regime was in full swing, and the Holocaust was in its deadliest phase. Auschwitz, located in Poland, became the epicenter of the genocide. Established initially as a concentration camp in 1940, it later expanded to include the notorious Birkenau, Auschwitz II, and Monowitz, Auschwitz III camps. These camps were the sites of mass extermination, where millions of innocent people, mainly Jews, were subjected to unimaginable horrors. The camp's scale and efficiency were staggering, with gas chambers and crematoria designed for mass murder, all under the sinister supervision of Heinrich Himmler's SS. Chapter 2: The Arrival. As the war raged on, Jews and other prisoners from across Europe were transported to Auschwitz in overcrowded, filthy trains. Upon arrival, they were immediately separated, with those fit for forced labor sent to the work camps, while others, often women, children, and the elderly, were directed to the gas chambers. The infamous Arbeit macht frei, work sets you free, sign at the entrance was a cruel facade hiding the grim reality. Families were torn apart, and the immediate brutality prisoners faced upon arrival, with their heads shaved and their identities reduced to mere numbers, was a dehumanizing experience. Chapter 3: The Brutal Conditions. Inside the camp, life was a living nightmare. Prisoners were subjected to harsh labor, starvation, and brutal treatment. Medical experiments were conducted on some, while the rest endured sickness, malnutrition, and the constant fear of selection for the gas chambers. The SS guards ruled with an iron fist, and there was no escape from the atrocities. For those consigned to forced labor, the conditions were horrific, with 12 to 14-hour workdays, insufficient food, and brutal punishments for the slightest infractions. Disease was rampant, and the barracks were overcrowded and unsanitary, leading to further suffering and death. Chapter 4: The Resistance. Despite the inhumane conditions and constant surveillance, there were instances of resistance within the camp. Secret messages, acts of sabotage, and small uprisings served as a testament to the prisoners' will to survive and fight back against their oppressors. In some cases, prisoners managed to steal weapons or explosives and planned escapes or rebellions. One of the most famous instances was the Sonderkommandos revolt in Birkenau in October 1944, which resulted in limited damage to the crematoria, but ultimately ended in the execution of those involved. Chapter 5: The Allied Advance. As World War II progressed, the Allied forces advanced toward Auschwitz. By early 1945, the Soviet Red Army was closing in on the camp, and the Nazis began a desperate effort to cover their tracks. Prisoners were forced on death marches to other camps, and evidence of the mass murders was systematically destroyed. It was a race against time for the Nazis, as they sought to eliminate any traces of their heinous crimes. This period marked a crescendo of brutality, as the SS intensified their efforts to eradicate prisoners and witnesses alike. Chapter 6: The Liberation. On January 27, 1945, the Soviet soldiers finally reached Auschwitz. What they found was beyond comprehension. Emaciated survivors, many on the brink of death, greeted their liberators. The Soviets, shocked by the horrors they encountered, began to care for the survivors and document the camp's atrocities. The liberation of Auschwitz represented a glimmer of hope amid unimaginable despair, as survivors realized that their ordeal was finally coming to an end. For the Soviet soldiers, the shock and revulsion they felt upon entering the camp left an indelible mark on their memory. Chapter 7: Rebuilding Lives. The survivors of Auschwitz faced a long and arduous road to recovery. Many had lost their families and were physically and emotionally scarred. Relief organizations, medical teams, and military personnel provided aid and support, helping survivors rebuild their lives. This process was fraught with challenges, as many survivors struggled with survivor's guilt, PTSD, and the monumental task of rebuilding their lives after enduring such extreme trauma. The support of organizations like the Red Cross and the Joint Distribution Committee was vital in providing food, medical care, and emotional assistance to survivors. Chapter 8: The Nuremberg Trials. In the aftermath of World War II, the Nuremberg trials held top Nazi officials accountable for their crimes. Auschwitz and the other concentration camps were key pieces of evidence, and the trials aimed to bring justice to those responsible for the Holocaust. Prominent Nazi figures, including Rudolf Höss, the former commandant of Auschwitz, were prosecuted and brought to justice for their roles in the Holocaust. The Nuremberg trials set important precedents for prosecuting individuals for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Chapter 9: Never Forget. The liberation of Auschwitz serves as a solemn reminder of the horrors humanity is capable of. The memory of the Holocaust endures as a call to action against hatred, discrimination, and prejudice. Holocaust survivors have shared their stories to ensure that the world never forgets the immense suffering that took place within the barbed wire fences of Auschwitz and other concentration camps. This commitment to remembrance is reflected in Holocaust memorials, museums, and educational programs worldwide, all designed to ensure that the lessons of history are not lost and that such a tragedy never happens again. The liberation of Auschwitz was a pivotal moment in the history of World War II and the Holocaust, marking the beginning of the end of one of the darkest chapters in human history. It stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and a stark reminder of the need to prevent such atrocities from ever happening again.